So the most common cause of priapism in children is
SCD.
it is sickle cell disease. Okay, sickle cell disease. Always sickle cell disease. Okay. And what is the type of priapism which happens in sickle cell disease? Again, priapism is one of the most high yield areas. Okay.
Stuttering.
Yeah, of course, stuttering is one form, but the two common classifications are it can be either
Ischemic or
ischemic or non-ischemic. Okay. So ischemic priapism is more common in sickle cell disease. So the answer is here is sickle cell disease. Okay, right. A patient has a GFR of 45 ml. He falls in which of these PKD classes? Stage 1,
Stage three.
and stage. This you have to remember. Okay. Take up. This is a direct pickup from this table here. See here, these are the stages. Okay, stage 1, 2, 3. 3 can again be 3A and 3B. Okay. So you just remember. So more than 90, stage 1, 2 means it is somewhere between 60 to 90, 3A and 3B. Okay. 3A is somewhere between 45 to 60. Here it is somewhere between 30 to 45. Stage 4 is 15 to 30. Stage 5 is 15. Okay. Just remember this alone. That's sufficient. Okay. So these are some gray areas which we miss because we don't read it. Okay. Remember, you will get questions on this as well. Okay. Urolithiasis is common as which type of RTA? Again, I repeat this as I said. Okay.
Right ones.
Last times came in this INISS and also in 2028. Okay. It is type 1 RTA. Understood. Great. Chromosomal mutation seen in ADPKD. Again, I already said this familial tumor. Again, very important high yield area. So ADPKD means what is it? What are the chromosomes?
16.
It is what is the other one? Other chromosome. 4 and 16. Okay. What is the autosomal recessive PKD?
6 chromosome. Chromosome 6.
Okay. Don't forget no mistakes. These mistakes are unpardonable. Okay. Right. Remember this table. Okay. Remember this table. Okay. Right. A 32-year-old female presented with complaints of painful erection, female blood AB shows PO2 of 23, PCO2 of 63. This PCO2 is increased, PO2 is reduced. So what is the diagnosis? What is the next management? Can anybody tell what type of priapism we are dealing with?
Ischemic priapism.
It is ischemic priapism. Okay. And what is the immediate treatment of action?
Aspiration, sir. Immediate is aspiration.
Okay. First is aspiration alone. Next is what do you do?
Phenylephrine.
Alpha agonist has to be given. If that is not working, then what do you go for?
Shunts.
Distal shunts. If that is not working, what are you going to go for?
Proximal shunts.
Proximal shunts. If that is again also not working, what are you going to go for?
Implantation.
Implant. Okay. So the idea is you have to create a alternate passage. Okay. Right. This table is very, very important. Just go by these numbers. PO2 less than 30, PCO2 more than 60. That means what? Remember, we are dealing with a venous blood. Okay. There is more amount of carbon dioxide buildup and reduced oxygen levels because of increased oxygen extraction. This is one question. This is little old. Of course, we are not doing this renal angiogram, but it was asked in 2020. Renal angiogram is done in which group of?
B.
It is DNA. Arteries renal. First, you should understand what is this captopril renal angiogram. Further, you have to understand what is the DTPS scan. So I think I already discussed this. DTPS scan has got 3 parts. Can anybody tell what are they? The curve has got 3 parts. What are they?
Aortic perfusion.
The first is the perfusion phase.
And corticomedullary.
Perfusion phase. Next is the renal phase.
Then excretion
phase. The perfusion phase means what does that mean? How well the drug is being taken up by the kidneys. So what happens in renal artery stenosis? Can anybody tell what happens in renal artery stenosis?
Perfusion phase is lost.
Yeah, because the renal arteries are compressed. But renal kidney is one of the excellent organ where it can auto-regulate its own blood flow. So what happens because of renal stenosis? So what happens here is there is the compensatory increased production of your renin-angiotensin system. So what happens? Though the perfusion levels are slightly lower than normal, it will maintain some amount of perfusion. Understood? Remember, this is the normal uptake and normal pattern. In renal artery stenosis, the uptake will be slightly less, something like this, and then the rest of the patterns will be normal. Now, this increased peak is already because of the compensatory overactivity of renin-angiotensin system. Now, what happens if you give a captopril? What is captopril? Captopril is the ACE inhibitor. So what happens? You are taking away this compensatory pathway. So what happens after this compensatory pathway? This peak will be delayed. Okay, already there is a delayed peak. This will be again delayed. So what happens? This will accentuate the difference. This will accentuate the difference. Pre-captopril and post-captopril. If there is a fall of more than 10%, that means what? This patient is supposed to have a significant renal artery stenosis. Are you able to follow this, guys?
So fall of more than
10%. Okay. Right. Now, the patient is suspected PUJO is best diagnosed with PUJO. What is the investigation of choice?
D.
MAC3.
MAC3. Okay. Again, this renogram. Again, there are multiple questions. What is MAC3? What is DTPA? What is DMSA? How are they differently handled by the kidney? That is important. DTPA is predominantly by
GFR.
GFR. Very good. MAC3 is predominantly by
Secretion.
tubular secretion. Very good. DMSA is predominantly by
Both what gets concentrated in the proximal.
yeah. Where do we do the DMSA?
Structural scarring.
Okay. Cortical scarring BUR. Okay. Where do you use DTPA?
Obstruction. Physiological.
Where we should not use this DTPA scan?
Renal failure.
Renal failure, because it is GFR dependent. In renal failure, GFR is already low. In that case, the MAC3 can be used. Okay, when both options are given, the best is a MAC3 scan. Okay. 25-year-old female diagnosed with right PUJ obstruction, presents high serum creatinine, differential function 75%, 25% on right side. What is the next best step? Pyeloplasty, endopylotomy, CT angiography, right side DJ stenting.
Pyeloplasty.
Remember, this is a lady with a ballooned out renal pelvis and ureter. There's an obstruction happening here. She has presented with raised serum creatinine. What is the next best step? Every word is important.
Decompression.
Yeah, you have to decompress. So sometimes the first thing is you have to relieve the uremia and you have to watch for the natriuretic creatinine. As already said, before any definitive procedure, maximum optimization has to be done without causing any delay in treatment. Okay. So what is the next thing, best thing available?
Stenting.
Okay. Either you can go for a stenting or a PCN. Can you integrate stenting in a congenital PUJO? Is it possible?
Yes.
We are dealing here. What type of obstruction we are dealing here? Is it an anatomical obstruction or a physiological obstruction?
25.
Functional, physiological.
It is a physiological obstruction. It's a functional obstruction. So what is the microscopic examination of PUJ segment in normal microscopy?
Peristaltic.
Yeah, it is mainly normal. Only the ultra microscopy will show the absence of this peristalsis and spiral arrangement. Okay, that is a replacement of the spiral form by circular fibers. That is important. Okay, so this is not anatomical obstruction. So you can definitely easily pass a DJ stent if possible. So what will happen is DJ stent? This DJ stent will allow the urine to pass along from the infected system through the tube, and this will reduce the uremia. Once the uremia has come down, definitely you have to intervene. And another question is, what are the indications for PUJO? Surgical indications for intervention. When do you intervene? When do you intervene? When there's an obstruction, when there is impairment of overall function, when there is development of stones or recurrent infection. Okay. Next question is a 4 cm testicular mass confined to testis. Post-orchidectomy tumor markers are normal. CT shows 4 mm retroperitoneal node. What is the next step? Come on. Orchidectomy is done. It is a teratoma. Tumor markers are normal. CT shows 4 mm retroperitoneal. What is the next best step?
Active surveillance.
Active surveillance. Okay. If it is only more than 1 centimeter,
1
Okay.
centimeter.
5 to 9 mm, you have to be vigilant. This is only 4 centimeter, 4 mm, so nothing to be done. This is sufficient. Okay. So remember our flowcharts which I given you in the classes. Okay. So this question is picked up from this place. I will tell you. So it is like this. So less than 1 centimeter, nothing has to be done. Okay, we have to just observe them. Okay. So next question is that 10-year-old male diagnosed with CA bladder with PT2 N0 M0. What does PT2A means? What is T2 bladder? We just
Muscle
see-
injury.
So muscle injury, what is the treatment option you have?
Radical cystectomy.
Radical cystectomy.
Yeah,
So,
radical.
but the problem is got stage 3 CKD creatinine is 1.1, 1.9. What is the best management for him? So it has got different. One is you should know the treatment option for radical for a muscle invasive bladder tumor, and should know what is the reconstruction available in this patient with CKD. So which one you are going to prefer? Ideal condi or orthotopic neobladder? So for the second part, no. So remember what happens in orthotopic. Orthotopic means the urine is going to stay inside your orthotopic bladder for a long time. So what happens? Urine is rich in urea and acid. But the bladder mucosa, but the bowel mucosa is prone to is made for reabsorption. What happens is urea, everything is going to be reabsorbed again and again. So what happens? Already the kidney is poorly functioning. In a poorly functioning kidney, you are giving too much of load to the kidney. So what happens in orthotopic bladder? Because that the urine is going to stay inside, more the time of contact with the bowel mucosa, more the chance of obstruction, more the chance of uremia. So remember, whenever you deal with a CKD patient, you should orthotopic bladder has to be contraindicated. You should always go for a non-continent bladder in the form of ideal condi, where the urine will not stay inside, whereas it will just come out and store inside the container outside the body. So the chance of renal overload is very much reduced. Understand this point now, guys?
Yes, sir.
What is the cutoff? Usually the cutoff is somewhere, but again it is a controversial. Campbell commits 2 areas in 2 different places, but this is the overall conclusion you can take upon. Okay, if GFR is less than 1.7 to 2.2, or if the AGFR is greater than 35 to 40, you can go for a continent diversion. Okay.
It is 35 to 40 or 60, sir. In review.
Yeah, don't go by
review.
review. This is taken from the Campbell. See, before this line itself, here there must be a that line quoted here. The exact acceptable level of renal function for cornea is somewhat controversial. Having said that, the next paragraph Campbell commits this point. So I believe that you have to go by this point. Understood?
Yes.
Even the author has described that there is a controversy on the exact cutoff, and he has given a conclusion on it. So you always better go by this formula. Okay. And I don't think you will have any borderline values in the exams. Okay. And if at all if there is a borderline values given, it is always to err on a non-continent ideal condi rather than a continent bladder. Okay, that makes more sense and more safe to the patient. Understood? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lab donor nephrectomy, which is the last structure to ligate? Is it the ureter? Is it a renal vein, renal artery, or gonadal vein?
Renal vein.
Why renal vein?
Has to be anastomosed first.
So that doesn't matter. It has to be ligated last. There should be some reason behind it. What happens to the kidneys? Yeah, excellent. It is a renal condition. This is a kidney. Okay, this is a kidney, and you have a single ring. Remember, this is an end organ. It is an end organ. So what happens if you ligate the renal vein? Remember, there is so much of flow happening here. Up to 20% of cardiac output is happening here. In the short period itself, the kidney will be congested and it will be filled with blood. Blood loss is going to happen. So the first thing to ligate is you have to cut down the artery, then you have to clip the renal vein. Okay. So the last thing to ligate is
retrograde.
Yeah.
Renal vein, sir. So retrograde supply to the kidneys.
Retrograde supply to the kidneys. I didn't get it. It's not retrograde supply. There is only one organ. You are not. The inflow has to be cut. Otherwise, what happens? Within a short period, you are doing a lap nephrectomy. You have to change 3 clips, and you have to in the short time the kidney will be swollen, enlarged like anything. You have to see it actually over the table to understand what is happening. Sometimes what happens, sometimes what happens, inadvertently we just clamp the renal vein. Suddenly the kidney will become enlarged. A lot of bleeding will happen here, usually in partial nephrectomies. Okay. So remember this renal vein is the last thing to be ligate, and it's a direct pick from the Campbell textbook itself. Understood? Cystitis glandular is the most common presentation. This is actually from 11th edition. 12th edition has taken this point away. But remember, it is most of the time they present with irritative LUTs. I couldn't find a definitive evidence in the 12th edition. Okay. The most common presentations are irritative voiding LUTs and hematuria. Okay. Midstream urine sample corresponds to which of the following? Again, it is based upon your 4-glass test. Come on.
VB2.
VB2, sir.
VB1. What is VB1? Remember, this is the bladder. This is the urethra.
First
So
5 to 10 ml.
the first part
First
is
part.
the VB1. That is an urethra. Okay. Next thing is what do you do?
VB2
Next is the next part of urine to come is the VB2. Okay. VB2. That is your bladder pathology. Okay. Next what you do is here is your prostate.
Prostate massage.
After you do a prostatic compression, that is the express prostate solution. Okay. EPS, and followed by after this you will get one thing. That is the VB3. After the prostatic massage. So what VB3 corresponds to your prostate and seminal vesicle secretions. Okay, infection. VB2 corresponds to your bladder and VB1 corresponds to your urethra. Are you okay with this, guys?
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
So just remember this picture. Okay. A crystal which does not precipitate in acidic urine is. Remember, for all stones, it is phosphate. It is phosphate stones. Uric acid, acidic urine itself is a predisposition factor for uric acid. Remember, for calcium oxalates, we acidify the urine. So the phosphate is one stone, which is calcium phosphate is stone, which is the higher urinary pH could increase calcium phosphate stone risk. Okay, right. The patient is coagulopathy and 1.5 cm renal pelvic calculus. What is the best treatment available? ESWL after FFP transfusion, Flexi URS, PCNL. Simple question. A patient with coagulopathy, you could not fit, so you can use your laser for lithotripsy, and you can go for your RAR, that is Flexi URS, intravenous surgery. Okay, that is, it is safe. And remember, up to 2 centimeters, 1 to 2 centimeters, Flexi URS can be used, can be done whenever it is feasible. And remember, pelvic calculus, there is no need for any acute angulation. Pelvic RARS is difficult when you find a stone in the lower calyx because it is very difficult to angulate, pass a wire and break. Whereas the stones in the upper calyx or renal pelvis can easily tackled with your pelvis because there is no need for acute angulation. Understood the point now? Right. So this is again a direct pick from this table, treatment algorithm. 10 to 20 centimeters, both shock lithotripsy or endourology. Endourology here it is retrograde internal surgery or Flexi URS. God's call ureter seen in? Simple question. TB. Okay, TB blood. So why God's call? Because of the periuretritis. Okay, periuretritis, and because of scarring that is pulled up of the ureter, ureteric orifice. Okay, ureteric bud develops from, again, I already said there is an embryology question. This is your Wolffian duct. Here is a ureteric bud. This is your metanephric blastema. This will go and interact. So it develops from mesonephric duct or Wolffian duct. Okay. Congenital unilateral absence of vast different ipsilateral renal agenesis, likely developmental etiology. See, remember, same areas, questions are slightly different. Understood? So what is the most likely answer here?
CFTR.
Before the 7th week. Only before that, only both these will happen. Otherwise, what will happen? After 7th week, already the kidney has been formed. Ureteric bud has been formed. So there will not be any anomalies. So if the anomaly happens before 7th week, there will be ipsilateral renal agenesis. Understood? An artery that bleeds during PCNL, which when the tract travels through the columns of Burton.
Interlobar.
Interlobar.
Lobular.
So for that, you have to understand the of kidney. Okay, so remember, this is the kidney. So what happens is you have your renal pyramids like this. Okay, how does this artery goes? First is a segmental artery. Segmental arteries goes on either side of the pyramids. What is this type? Segmental arteries give rise to
Interlobar.
interlobar. Between the lobes it goes. It is interlobar artery. Once they reach the base of the pyramids, they give branches on both the ends. What are these arteries called? What are these arteries called? Arcuate arteries. So arcuate arteries then gives rise to branches.
Interlobar.
They are the interlobar arteries. So remember, our puncture has to go through the cup of the cavity. It is not through the fornix it has to go. And remember this space, this cortex which extends between the pyramids is called the columns of Bertin. These columns of Bertin usually have your interlobar arteries. Interlobar arteries. What happens in PCNL? Your puncture has to go through. What happens if the puncture goes through, not through the infundibulum, not through the papilla? You are more likely to injure this. You are more likely to injure this area, which is your interlobar artery. Understand the point now?
Yes.
So, what is the percentage of VHL patients that develop RCC? Remember again the familial RCCs, all those syndromes. Multiple times question has been asked. It was 50%. You have to remember. Okay, there is no other go. You have to remember these points. Okay, 50%. This is a complication shown in this image. I think probably this was from general surgery pattern. I was able to have this, so this added. So what do you see here? What do you see here? You see a complete black area. Usually you will see bronchovascular markings on the medial 1/3. You see complete black area on the right side. So that means what? It is hypertranslucent. So what it means, there is an air in the right chest. And what you see here? What double lumen catheter is being placed. Where do we place this catheter? What is this catheter? Where do we place this catheter?
Central venous.
It is central. It's central venous. It is a central venous catheter. So one of the most common complications of CVC is a pneumothorax. It's most probably because CVC related. Okay. A 60-year-old male with a serum PSA of 5 and a trust biopsy Gleason score is 6 and past history of cardiac stenting. What is the best management in this patient?
Active surveillance.
Carcinoma prostate. Okay. So you have to risk stratify them. You have to look for the longevity. We have to look for the longevity. And you have to remember, Gleason score is 6, PSA is 5. Comes under low risk. And the longevity is also very less because this patient has got a cardiac stenting. There is no doubt at all. So what is the option available here with us? It is active surveillance. Right. A 60-year-old male with dysuria frequency and urgency for 2 weeks. Symptoms are not subsiding and has tachycardia and raised total count. PR shows tender, boggy prostate. So what are we dealing with? Irritative leg, fever, raised counts. So what are we thinking about? Most like prostatic. So what is the investigation of choice for prostatic abscess?
CT.
Is it the truss or
MRI?
Truss. No, it is CT. Remember, truss can only tell the prostatic abscess. Whereas what happens outside the prostate, everything will be given better with your CT scan. So CT is the investigation of choice. Okay, so it can tell prostatic invasion, whether the sphincters are involved, sometimes whether the rectum has also been breached, etc. can be given with the CT scan. So the treatment of choice is your CT. Remember, any LUTS present with fever not responding, you have to think about prostatic abscess and main. Okay, especially diabetic. Prostate drains into dash group of nodes. Again, a direct question. So that means what are the primary nodal stations of prostate?
Obturator.
Yeah, internal iliac and obturator nodes. There is no doubt about it. Okay, that is the first group. Of course, it also drains into your external iliac and common iliac, but the most important thing is that primary nodal stage are internal iliac and obturator nodes. Or true about male urethra. Bulbar urethra is narrowest and 24 French. Is it true or false?
False.
Which is the most dilated part of urethra?
Prostatic.
Prostatic, 32 French.
Bladder neck is narrowest and 24 French.
28 French bladder neck, sir.
Okay, it is 28 French. Okay, so bladder neck is 28 French. Meatus is the narrowest and it is 24 French. True or false?
True.
Okay. The narrowest part of a male urinary tract is your external urethral meatus. This is the true state. Okay. Prostatic urethra is shortest. Which is the shortest? Shortest urethra?
Membranous.
Okay. And the four parts are penile urethra, bulbar urethra, membranous urethra, and membranous urethra is the shortest. It is 1.5 to 2 centimeters. Okay. Right. True about male urethra. Whole anteurethra is covered by penis. True or false?
False.
Urethra here.
False.
What is anteurethra here?
Penile and bulbar.
So up to this is your anteurethra. That includes your bulbar urethra and penile urethra. Okay. Whole urethra is not, only the penile urethra is covered by your penis. Bulbar urethra is stationed in the scrotum and the perineum. Okay. Pelvic trauma involves membranous urethra. True or false?
True.
True statement. BXO never involves the navicularis. True or false? BXO is a,
False.
it starts at us and it can extend up to the whole of the anterior urethra. So it also includes fossa navicularis. Okay. So the option is B is the right statement here. Guys, are you okay? I know I'm a little fast, but we are running out of time, and you also want to revise. Well, just give the idea alone. Okay. Identify this diagnosis. So what image is being done here?
RGU.
RGU.
So RGO shows. So what is this area? This is the typical coning area. So what is this area? This is the level of the
Bulbar.
junction.
Don't think that this sharp coning is not stricture. This is at the level of sphincters. This is at the level of sphincters. Okay. Usually it will go like this. There will be some dilatation and it will open into the bladder. This dilatation is due to your prostatic urethra. Okay. This sharp coning is actually a normal urethra. This is a normal retrograde ureterogram. Understood? Guys are able to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, this is a CECT actually.
Sometimes it's difficult to.
Yeah, I know it is difficult. But remember, when the rest of the urethral caliber is normal.
That normal coning and stricture, sir, at that junction, bulbomembranous junction, and the normal coning sometimes get confused.
So like, remember, you will never get isolated stricture just at the bulbomembranous junction. Okay, these inflammatory strictures are very rare in your membranous and prostatic urethra. Okay, so when you see a stricture, many times there will be some amount of narrowing in the either in the bulbar urethra. Most of the time it will be in the bulbar urethra. Okay, then you have to think it in terms of stricture. If the bulbar urethra is wide and patulous, you see here it is wide and patulous, and everything is normal, then nothing to worry about it. Okay, see, this is a normal. What happens is usually you will have a definitely you will not miss that stricture if it is a stricture. Okay, so that's the reason. This is a normal pattern. We just go through it. The only problem is the penis has not been properly stretched while taking this. Otherwise, it's like this. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. See, it is a CECT axial image. Which of the following corresponds to the cortical phase? So there are 4 phases. What are they? This is a plain CT. This is the cortex and this is the corticomedullary phase. The whole of the kidney is being enhanced. This is the nephrogenic phase, and here the contrast is seen in the renal pelvis. This is the delayed images. Okay, so which is the best phase to look for renal tumors?
Nephrogenic.
Phase.
Nephrogenic. Can you differentiate collecting duct RCC from an papillary RCC?
No, sir.
CT scan?
No.
Okay, this is slightly advanced, but if you properly time a CT and take in a corticomedullary phase, you can differentiate, because what are the cells of origin of your RCC and collecting duct RCCs? Clear cell RCC and collecting duct RCC.
PCT for
Yeah, proximal tubulus is in your cortex, whereas your collecting duct is in your medulla. So if you plan a CT scan and a perfect timing at corticomedullary phase, only the tumors in PCTs will be enhanced, whereas your collecting duct diseases will not enhance. Okay, but okay, this is little too much, but just understand this. Okay, but in general, the best phase is your nephrogenic phase, where all the tubules has been enhanced and you can see any enhancement. Okay, what is the cutoff of enhancement for RCC?
+15.
+15, excellent. +15. See, sometimes you will get confused. It may look simple for you. Sometimes you will have -20, +20, -15, +15 an option. You will get confused with angiomyolipoma and RCC. That's why I'm just repeating it. Okay, right. Now, which of the following is true about medullary sponge kidney associated with hypocalcemia? True or false?
False.
Associated with hypercalcemia. Okay. So remember, this area, which is dry area, you may not read. Just go back and read today. Most common presentation is recurrent UTI. No, it is asymptomatic. Okay, they may present with renal masses. No, again, it is asymptomatic. Remember, this is the only place where IV is better than CT investigation. Where is one place in another condition where IVP is better than CT?
Renal.
Early urinary TB, and other one is medullary sponge. Ptosis, of course, because in CT you do in supine scan, in ptosis you do a standing IVP, you can pick up a ptotic kidney. Okay, but the most important things are medullary sponge kidney and early phase of urinary tuberculosis. Okay, a penile lesion of 1.5 centimeter right inguinal node, the next line of management, that is T1A penile lesion. So T1A means what? The low risk.
Low risk. T1A, intermediate.
Yeah. T1A is
Intermediate.
whenever it is T1, it is high risk. So when you deal with high risk disease, so what are you thinking about? We always think about it has already had some nodal meds. Understood? And you have a palpable node. So what is the next treatment option available?
FNAC.
You have to go for upfront FNAC. Only in very low risk, TAS and TA, you give a course of antibiotics. Otherwise, in whenever T1 or more than that, you have to always go for FNAC upfront. Don't get confused. Again, an important area, multiple times you will get question here. The differentiating point is what the primary pathology biopsy specimen is. Understood? So when high risk, more chance of nodal meds, you have to err towards overdiagnosis and you have to look for aggressive nodal staging. Understand? And what is the minimum nodal staging procedure that is advised?
Superficial.
In M0
Superficial
nodes. Superficial inguinal nodes. So what is the difference between superficial and deep inguinal distance? What is the barrier?
Facial.
Later, okay.
External or makeup.
Okay, and I know you know what are the Catalonis modification of an lymph node dissection. Catalonis modification includes superficial or both superficial and deep nodes.
Both.
Yeah, both superficial and deep nodes. Okay, and you should know the boundaries as well. Okay, after very and insufflation, patient develops bradycardia and asystole. What is the next step? Immediate laparotomy, deflate and remove gas. Check for dislodgement of endotracheal tube, coronary vasodilators as it is suspected MI. It is again, I don't know whether it's from general surgery part or not, but still I could able to get a reference from Campbell. It is because of the peritoneal irritation. Because of CO2 irritating peritoneum, you will develop this bradycardia. So the treatment is you have to take up that irritating CO2. So you have to deflate the gas and you have to remove it. Okay, that is a treatment option. 3 months after TAH, patient presents continuous dribbling of urine per vagina. She also has normal voiding pattern. Important question. Now, what is the most likely cause?
Uretrovaginal.
Okay, it is a uretrovaginal fistula. How do you differentiate it?
Normal voiding pattern.
So the test.
Normal voiding pattern. To have a normal voiding, you should have an intact bladder. Okay, in VVF, because the bladder is not intact, there is fistula is present, you will not have a normal voiding pattern. Whereas in VVF, the leak is happening from one side ureter, the other ureter drains, fills the bladder, and patient have normal voiding as well. Understood? Right. And sometimes you will have a question on the double dye test also. Again, your most favorite topic for examiners. Just go through them. Okay. So which sponge will be, which color will be there? All these things I already taught you. Okay. Right. So what is the most likely cause of infratrigonal VVF? What is infratrigonal VVF? Can anybody tell? So any VVF can be classified into supratrigonal and infratrigonal.
Obstructed liver.
That means what? The the fistulous tract is below the trigone. Okay. So where do you more likely to
Vaginal
get?
hysterectomy.
No.
Vaginal
Oh,
hysterectomy.
vaginal hysterectomy. Okay. Mostly
obstructed leg.
Obstructed
it is
labor.
obstructed labor. What happens in obstruction? Because of repeated straining, the pressure will be at the infratrigonal bladder. Okay, because of the head is partly engaged into the pelvis, but there is no space for it. The scapulopelvic disproportion. So the infratrigonal VVF is more common in obstructed labor. Okay, and remember, in vaginal hysterectomies, most of the times the incidence of VVF is less compared to abdominal hysterectomies. Okay, and in abdominal hysterectomies, you dissect from above. The most common is supratrigonal VVF. Okay, because the following is not used in BCG sepsis: isoniazid, rifampicin, cycloserine, steroids.
Steroids.
No, steroids can be used in life-threatening conditions. Steroids can be used in life-threatening condition. Okay, so isoniazid, rifampicin commonly used in intermediate BCG sepsis. Okay, cycloserine is not indicated. There is a direct line here. Cycloserine often causes severe psychiatric symptoms and is strongly discouraged. Okay. Left gonadal vein drains into anatomy. Left gonadal vein into
Adrenal.
left vein. What?
Renal.
Adrenal vein.
Adrenal vein.
Left gonadal vein drains into.
Renal.
Left renal.
Renal vein. Renal vein.
A.
Oh, I hear somebody saying adrenal. It is not adrenal.
Sorry.
Okay. It is your renal vein. Okay. Don't get. These are the mistakes which you could get for some time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So never make these mistakes. Okay. Remember, day before, I will just tell you after the conclusion of this, I will tell what are the topics to be discussed. Okay. Revise.
Yes.
So it is always a adrenal vein. It is in the, sorry, it is in the left renal. I also got confused, man. Okay. Okay. On the right side, it drains into.
IVC.
Right side gonadal vein drains into that.
IVC.
IVC. Very good. Okay. Organic erectile dysfunction, all are true except sudden onset, progressive worsening, not situational, nocturnal erections are absent.
Sudden onset.
A.
Sudden answer.
Sudden onset is usually psychogenic. Okay. Usually psychogenic. So remember this table. Okay. Right. A 5-year-old child with history of calculus disease now present with left loin pain for 2 days. What is the investigation of choice? Again, a similar question we discussed in the INISS. So the question is very simple. What is the investigation of choice in a suspected renal stone?
B.
It is
NCT.
non-contrast CT. Okay, non-contrast. The true with regards to renal vasculature is posterior segmental artery divides proximal to hilum. Accessory renal artery supplies the upper pole. Apical segment is supplied by the posterior segmental artery. Right renal artery passes posterior to IVC. Which is the true statement here?
D.
It is D. Okay, remember VAP. Always the artery posterior to the vein. Okay, so even in during an nephrectomy also, your artery will be seen just the posterior and lateral to below the renal vein. Okay, and accessory renal artery is most commonly supplies the lower pole. Apical segment is supplied by apical branch. It is not by posterior.
Anterior segment.
Anterior segment.
Most
Anterior.
of the posterior segmental artery is the first artery, and sometimes it may divide proximal to hilum as well. But here we have a very true statement. So you go with this. Okay. Sometimes mostly it divides at the level of hilum. Sometimes it can divide even before the hilum as well. Okay. And what is the most posterior most structure in renal hilum?
Pelvis.
Pelvis.
Ureter.
Most posterior most structure in that is a posterior segmental artery. Okay. Anterior to posterior. Don't forget. Okay. All right. A patient with bilateral ureteric calculi underwent IVU. Post procedure, he developed right loin pain. Ultrasound revealed perinephric collection. What could be the most probable cause, and what is its management? So remember, this is a patient. Okay. Patient has got an obstruction here. What happens is we are giving diuresis. Because of diuresis, urine is being collected here. And some amount of urine, because of obstruction, it will find safe. It is like what are the other backflow mechanisms? The most common backflow is your it is a fornicial rupture. It is a, because these fornices are very fragile and the urine will start leaking from this. Okay, this is a fornicial rupture and this will cause subscapular collection, subscapular urine collection. Most of the time they are very benign and there is no to intervene unless it is infected. So the option is fornicial rupture. Okay. A 50-year-old
Management, sir.
management is conservative unless the patient has got symptoms. Okay, it usually resolves on its own. Okay, a 50-year-old patient with 2 episodes of gross hematuria, but no difficulties in passing urine, no evidence of hematuria and evaluation. What is the next management? It is a PPH with hematuria, but no retention. He is able to pass now. What is the next management? Angioembolization, 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, TURP, or drug biopsy.
5-alpha finasteride.
Okay, you have to go for your 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, but if it is a refractory hematuria, then what is the definitive treatment? What?
TUR.
Yeah,
TUR.
Channel TUR.
but now
TUR.
channel TUR, don't get confused. Channel TUR is only done in carcinoma prostate with obstructive LUTS. Okay, this is not a carcinoma prostate. Okay, here. So the first treatment is control the bleeding with 5-alpha reductase inhibitors followed by TURP. Remember, recurrent hematuria is one of the indications for TURP. Understood?
Sir, when is it called recurrent? This is 2 episodes.
Yeah, 2 times. Of course, it is 2 times. I'm asking you what is the next management. First, you start them with 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, then you prepare the patient for surgery. Okay, because this question, definitive management, you have to go for TURP. Okay. So remember, because I feel this question is a direct lift this flow chart. So the initial management is hydration and bleeding persists, and if you localize the bleeding because of BPH, you have to go for 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. Okay.
So when they say recurrent, it's after the first treatment modality. That's 5-alpha reductase. So
Yeah. Okay. Then you have to go for. In this case, it is only 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. Okay. Right. Which are the drug causing stone? Very simple question.
Indinavir.
All protease inhibitors. Okay, right. Remember, there are also other drugs like ephedrine, trimetrin, etc. Just go through them. Okay. So these are the factors that facilitate stone passage. Includes increased hydrostatic pressure proximal to the calculus and relaxation of urine at the region of stone. Increase hydrostatic pressure proximal to calculus and contraction at the ureter at the region of stone. Decrease hydrostatic pressure. So something to, there should be increased pressure from above and there should be relaxation at the site of impact. So option A. Okay. So AKA occurs within dash of contrast administration. So to say it is
48 hours.
48 hours.
It is 48 hours. Remember, again, one of the most repeated areas, most of the time we do miss them is this contrast-induced nephropathy. You have to remember them. Lot of important questions do come here. It is less than 48 hours. Now, what is the definition? Definition is diagnosis renal parameters increase within 48 hours and increase in serum creatinine of more than 0.3 milligram per DL or more than 50% increase from your baseline values, or the urine output is less than 0.5 ml per hour for at least 6 hours. Every point is important. Every point is important. Creatinine more than 0.3 milligram percent or more than 50% increase, or urine output less than 0.5 ml per hour per kg per hour for 6 hours. But everything has to happen within 48 hours as well. Okay. These are the contrast-induced diagnosis to say it is a contrast-induced nephropathy. Okay. So what is the least selective alpha blocker? Phenoxyphenolidine. Okay, phenoxyphenolidine is given in
Pheochromocytoma.
Yeah, pheochromocytomas. Okay. So, a 50-year-old male with right loin pain, CT abdomen shows 8 cm mass in midfold right kidney and no other symptoms. Chest X-ray is normal. What is the next best treatment? Go through this question. So, palliative chemo, partial tyrosine kinase inhibitors, PET CT formats, radical nephrectomy. So there is no doubt. I think it is radical nephrectomy. And why do we have chest? Only CT chest is indicated when there is abdominal finding in chest X-ray. Our patient has got respiratory symptoms Okay, respiratory symptoms. Our patient has got poor performance status. Okay. Otherwise, you can go for upfront radical nephrectomy. So, what is radical nephrectomy? What are the components of radical nephrectomy? Come on, somebody tell me. What are the components of radical nephrectomy?
Kidney, adrenal, proximal ureter.
Okay, adrenal, of course. So it is a extragerotal. First thing is extragerotal nephrectomy. That is very, very important. And adrenals, you have definite indication. When there is clinical involvement of adrenal, when there is clinical involvement of adrenal, large upper pole tumors, etc., there you have to go for adrenalectomy. Okay. And do we have to combine lymphadenectomy routinely?
No.
No, there are select indications. Where do you do lymphadenectomies?
More
In
than
aggressive
2 CT.
tumor? Yeah.
T3
There is preoperative node development, or young children. In young children where there is they tend to be aggressive, you have to go for aggressive lymphadenectomy. Otherwise, routine lymphadenectomy is not needed. Intestinal diversion with which electrolyte abnormality? Again, a common question. Again, a favorite question. Remember,
Hyperkalemia.
ileum, jejunum, and colon. Okay. So ileum will have hypokalemic,
Hyperkalemic.
hypokalemic, hyperchloremic. That is one important point in ileum. In jejunum, you have hyperkalemic metabolic acidosis. Okay. In stomach, you have everything. You have everything. Hypokalemic, every parameter will be. This is the important thing you have to remember. Jejunum is the only place where you have this hyperkalemia. Understood? Remember this. Don't forget this table. Okay. Jejunum, there is increased potassium. Okay. So elderly male with diabetes with upper pole 6.8 centimeter mass, optimum treatment. Neoadjuvant TKI followed by downstaging followed by partial nephrectomy, radical nephrectomy, partial nephrectomy with follow-up radiofrequency ablation. Upper pole tumor 6.8 centimeters. You have to go for partial nephrectomy, nephron sparing surgery. So what are the indications for nephron sparing surgery in other go?
Single functioning kidney.
Solitary.
Yeah, solitary kidney and familial tumors. Patient with comorbids, diabetic, whom you suspect to go for subsequent CKDs, or very large tumors. If you leave very little amount of kidney which is going in for hyperfiltration injury, there is no point in doing nephron sparing surgeries. Or if it is a very complex tumor where a partial nephrectomy cannot be feasible. Okay, all these are indications for nephron sparing surgery. Here you have a patient with elderly male with diabetes, so all the more you have to be very cautious and give maximum chance of nephron sparing surgery. Okay. Whereas if it is the same patient and young patient, normal creatinine and no comorbids, you can, if it is more than 4 centimeters, you can go for upfront nephrectomy as well. Okay. A healthy 32-year-old male with no prior history of urolithiasis wishes to donate a kidney to 33-year-old husband was ESR due to reflex nephropathy. On CT scan, she is found to have 1.5 mm calculus in the right kidney, right renal pelvis. Metabolic stone workup is normal. Which of the following is true? She cannot donate her kidney because of her kidney stone. She should be accepted as donor and left kidney should be removed for donation. She may be considered donation of right kidney. She cannot donate because of her husband's primary etiology.
C.
So she can be considered for right kidney. So best thing is you can treat the stone inside the donor itself and then you can take the patient for the donation. Okay, right. So again, see, remember, again this question is asked. 50-year-old male with diabetes, with fever, right loin pain. The picture shows like this. So what is the diagnosis? What is the diagnosis here? Very obvious.
Emphysematous.
Emphysematous pyelonephritis and managed with PCD, percutaneous drainage. Okay, you have to see this black air pockets. Okay. So latitude trial is related to which drug? Latitude trial is related to which drug? I already told once. It is associated with abiraterone. Remember, hormone sensitive metastatic carcinoma of prostate. Okay, right. Which of the following is not established factor for malignancy in testicular malignancy? Microlithiasis, family history, personal history, intratubular germ cell neoplasia. This is not an established. Yes? Microlithiasis. Very good. An IVP shows a large calyceal diverticulum stone. What is the best treatment available for calyceal diverticulum stone?
PCN.
Always, it is always PCN. Because what happens? Diverticulum means you have a very narrow communication. It is first of all very difficult to dilate and do an RIRS, and even if you do an RIRS, these fragments are not going to drain properly. So the best thing is you have to direct puncturally from percutaneous, you have to remove the stone, and if possible, you have to place a stent across in dilating the infundibulum, or else you have to cauterize the whole of the urothelium so that recurrent stone formation is not going to happen. Okay, right. The 30-year-old male with 1.7 cm pelvic stone wants to undergo RIRS for stone removal. Which of the following is true? With basket intact stone can be taken out. Is it possible?
1.5.
No.
Is it possible to take a big 1.5 centimeter stone using basket intact? Ureter will not allow. So this is not possible. Semi-rigid RIRS uses rod length system. This I will explain you. This is not given in Campbell match. Fiber optic cable is used in flexible RIRS. ESW is more invasive than RIRS. This is a true statement or false statement?
False.
It is also false. So now we will talk about what is rod length system. Okay. So this rod length system is seen only in rigid scopes. Okay. I tell what it is. Remember this, these are the scopes. What happened was Hopkins devised a rod, he placed lenses inside. Okay. So what happened? What the problem is, because of there's a large interface, the air is present here, and here you have glass. So a lot of interfaces are happening. That means what, the vision is not adequate. To negotiate it, what he done was to reduce the air space between it. He devised one thing, what is called as a rod length. That means these are glass rods. These are glass rods, but these are glass rods. By minimizing the air space here, So what happened? There is less amount of distraction is happening, and you get a better vision. So this is called the rod length system. This is called Hopkins rod length system. Okay. This is seen only in rigid scopes. So as if you see, remember, if anybody had worked in, for example, you see your vision in I think by general surgery you would have used your upper GA scopes. Vision in upper GA scopes are always less optimal compared to a vision through a laparoscope. Understood? Because laparoscope uses this rod length because that is a rigid instrument. The vision is excellent. But what is the problem? It has got less maneuverability and it is more fragile. Whereas what happens in RIRS, for example, for the flexible microscope, I will tell you. Here, you need to have a system which should be flexible. So what they have is they have a small, very small fibers. They are called optical fibers. So what happens is each optical fiber will carry image from here, and it will be like small dots. And the final image on TV will be like fiber will carry small areas, and it will give a bigger picture. So this optical fibers are seen in flexible scopes, whereas rod lengths are seen in rigid scopes. Whereas in semi-rigid, it is more like a fiber only, and they will use fiber optic scopes, fiber optic technology. Okay, this is slightly away from Campbell, but you just get to know this point. Okay, so the answer here is fiber optic scope most commonly used in flexible RIRS scopes. Okay. The next question is a 60-year-old male present with urgency, frequency, and dysuria. The serum PSA is 5. What should be the next treatment? 60-year-old male, what is the treatment option? Repeat PSA, TURP, trust guided biopsy, MPMRI.
MPMRI.
So now the answer is MPMRI. There is, I still wonder, on clinical practice, we usually repeat PSA after 3 weeks and see, but as for the textbooks, you can go for MPMRI. Why MPMRI? That is because of this study PROMISE trial, which shows in between 4 to 10 day areas, MPMRI will pick up clinically significant lesions, which avoids unnecessary trust. Understood? Okay. Okay. I think I concluded my session now. So the point to remember is You have to focus on certain areas. Okay. All the anatomy, all the uroanatomy part in the last 1 week. What to do in last 1 week? Okay. You have to read this anatomy part, and you have to be thorough with your uro-onco part. And then you have to see this the staging. All the stagings has to be done. Okay. And the renal trauma or the trauma grades has to be revised. And the infection part, especially the renal infections, abscess, etc. These are most often asked questions that you have to revise again and again. Okay. And you have to go through some of the common images. Most of the images I have discussed here. Some images you have to go through it. And remember, be confident. You have been reading the same subject again and again. Nothing going to change in last 1 week. You just keep revising things. Don't go for any new things to out. Okay. And wish you all the very best for your exams.